So we have a binary to answer. Mobility work, overrated or underrated? What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the show. My name is Cameron Harn. I have here
Danny Lou.
Danny and I get together. We talk about relevant topics related to the fitness industry. Today, we're going through our underrated versus overrated series, and Daniel, I'd like you to kick this off for us.
Yeah, so the whole point of the series is to talk about very popular things in the fitness industry that are kind of either hot right now or not, or some things that have confusion. And I like to talk about it because a lot of people misunderstand these things and place various amount of importance on them when they may be, they may not be. So I kind of wanted to dive into the details of that. Today, the topic of discussion is going to be mobility work. I know I definitely lack on mobility work, and I know a lot of people do. You definitely do more than I do, but I don't think you'd say you do too much. How do you feel about it?
I do enough that is required for the goals that I have. So I do have my own personal belief with this mobility work or whatever, because I think that you see a lot of it on Instagram these days. People are like, mobility this, mobility that, mobility with kettlebells, mobility with bands. Yeah, the list goes on and on. One of the big problems that I have with mobility work is it is not the all-being remedy to pain or whatever. It may be the component that helps you get out of pain. Mobility work tends to help people get out of their pain pretty quickly, but it's not everything. And that could be, again, we talked about the FAST principle before: flexibility, activation, strength, and timing. Flexibility and mobility in this context can be related. And maybe that is the thing that somebody needs. Somebody sees something on Instagram, they go, maybe I need that. I'm feeling those similar types of symptoms. And they do it, then it fixes their ailment, but then they start preaching to the heavens about how this mobility work is the end all be all. And that may not be the thing. You could have an activation problem. You could have a strength problem. It could be a coordination problem, which is also timing. And we have to take a look at all of those aspects when it's specifically related to pain or flexibility or whatever that is. But you can't say that mobility is the end all be all.
No, you cannot. Yeah. And I find that funny that you say that, because activation within the FAST principle, activation is typically my remedy for things, because my body personally, I have a lot of issues where I have shoulder tightness, and typically it happens usually what will relieve it is doing external rotation work that really helps me open up my shoulders and literally be pain free. It's so funny. Not mobility work at all, like no stretching, none of that. It's literally just activation work in my shoulder, and then I'm good to go for any pressing. But like the amount of people that, like you're saying, will see these stretching routines or yoga or whatever it may be and think that that's going to like fix all their issues is just ridiculous. And I find it kind of like interesting that people want the solution to get rid of their pain, but I'm so curious as to why everyone always thinks it's a flexibility thing. It's such in the general population, 9 times out of 10, like I find that people think that, I need to stretch my back hurts. I need to like touch my toes.
Yeah.
That's probably the last thing you should be doing to fix your low back pain. I actually find the opposite is true. You want to typically extend, not flex your hips. And it's just so interesting, man. I wonder where that even started. How did that even start happening?
So when we're looking at people reaching over to touch their toes, one of the things that people are doing is they're kind of assessing whether their pain is still there. If somebody has injured themselves, and specifically in their low back, they'll do like a bend over touch your toes test to see like, is that pain still there? They'll go down as far as they can, like, oh, there it is. Yep. But what they're doing is they're keeping that area sensitized. And you want to avoid that, but for some reason it's an assessment to see, is it still there? B, it kind of like feels good, but it's not a great thing for them to be doing. But when you're looking at mobility work, like true mobility work, like I get done with Cheyenne, requires manual therapy. It requires that he is either doing his traction work to help create that space, create that mobility, or he's doing soft tissue work, which is going to get more bang for your buck. But people tend to think that they can do it on their own, but you're not going to get the same effect as you would when a professional is working with you. They try to do the band distracted things, and those can help a little bit, but like I've spoken with Cheyenne, you're going to get way more if a trained professional who knows what they're doing is doing the right work with you. A lot of times people kind of just throw like a shotgun blast out and they think that, oh man, this is what it is. And they're chasing these pathologies. They're chasing these symptoms all over the place, trying to, remedy their issue. And maybe they get lucky, but there are other things that they need to look at. That's why it's beneficial to go to a professional.
Yeah, so you're saying they're addressing the symptom rather than the cause of the issue. Is
Correct.
Kind of what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
That typically is, I would say, very commonplace in the world these days.
It is. You have some sort of ailment. Could be, man, I have some weird abdominal pain, or I have a headache. You go to Google MD, and then you're like, oh my God,
I might have a brain tumor.
It's this, it's that. And it's like, hold on a second. Let's pause. I had the same episode. It was last year in May. I had an issue with lower right abdominal pain. I thought I had appendicitis. And you start freaking out like, oh my God, my appendix is going to rupture. I was going to go on vacation. And now this whole thing is just messed up because I think I have appendicitis.
In reality, you had a bad burrito, didn't you?
In reality, I just strained a muscle. And that was
okay.
it. Yeah. And it's, I don't know. I don't know what would be what's the best course of action. I mean, the best course of action, honestly, is if you have some sort of issue that you don't know what's going on,
go to a professional.
Yeah.
But
when we're talking about mobility work and a lot of people could benefit from mobility work. Mm-hmm. Let's be honest, right? We sit all day. We don't get full range of motion. There are some benefits to doing mobility work, but to the extremes, which I think we're talking about, where they're doing 30 minutes of mobility work, or they're doing all these different types of weird, crazy mobility drills, it's not necessary.
Yeah. I think this is where we can really reel in and get to the root of this conversation is what is the applicable amount or type of mobility work week that a person should be doing in their program on a regular basis. And I can say with confidence that 30 minutes is too much.
30 minutes is a lot of mobility work.
With confidence. If you're making like a regular thing, you see a lot of guys come in. I see a lot of powerlifters doing this, and they end up spending like 2-3 hours at the gym because they do like 45 minutes of like their warm up mobility stuff, getting their shoulders open, hips, whatever they're doing that day, and then they spend an hour at the bench or the squat rack or whatever. I see that way too much.
Yeah.
I can say with confidence that most people don't need that.
Most people don't need it. For me in particular, my routine takes about 30 minutes to do. I do my core activation, which is a series of exercises. I do some specific mobility routines, and then some activation, and then I get into it. And I do the mobility work on my hip because, as Cheyenne has identified with me, I lack hip internal rotation on my right side. And it's been hard. It's improved significantly, but it's been hard to maintain it for some reason. Kind of will take a couple steps forward, but over time it starts to creep back for some reason. Mm-hmm. Don't know why, but I try to stay diligent with my routine so I can keep as much internal rotation in that hip because it's beneficial for when I'm squatting and deadlifting.
At that point, it's probably got to be something that's recurring in daily life that is causing it to creep back.
Yeah.
I would guess something you do on a regular, like the way you sit when you drive, or like maybe the way you sleep, something like that.
Yeah.
Is probably what I would guess is happening. Not that matters. I even find 30 minutes for me is a little steep for mobility work, but it depends on what you're doing and what your goals are. If your goals at this time is to get rid of that pain, and I know you're trying to deadlift a crazy amount, that's like your goal. So that makes sense for you if that's your goal. But for a normal person, if you're just trying to like move pain free throughout the day, throughout your life, I don't even think you need 30 minutes on a regular basis. I would say like less than 15.
No. And you know what's funny is I used to hate on people doing warm-ups on the treadmill or whatever, but there's some benefit to getting your heart rate up and getting the blood circulating and stuff.
I am a treadmill fan.
Are you a treadmill fan?
I am. As my schedule has gotten more and more hectic, it was the first thing to bump out.
Yeah.
I don't do it anymore. When I had the time to, if I had time to do 5-10 minutes on the treadmill, I am a huge fan of getting my heart rate up first. But with my schedule the way it is, I barely have time to go to the gym, let alone do 5-10 minutes of cardio.
Yeah. But then in that scenario, it'd be beneficial to do some activation work or mobility work specific to the exercises that you're hitting for the day.
Yes.
But I just think that doing tons of mobility work or doing all these just weird ass mobility exercises is completely unnecessary. There are things that are going to give you the most bang for your buck. Do those things. Or if you've consulted with a physical therapist and they say, do these things, which I have, do them, get you a workout.
I think that's probably the best option for most people is either A, consult your physical therapist or professional that can give you a program to follow and stick to. Or B, if you don't have any type of like chronic or acute underlying pain that needs to be addressed, just go through your weekly programs and give a good 10, 15-minute activation, maybe a little bit of mobility for whatever you're doing that day. And kind of, I would call it wraps. That's kind of all you really need in reality, unless you have a major underlying issue like yourself, where your hips are really a real problem. If you're doing mobility and activation right before whatever for your body part that you're about to train that day, I think I call that enough personally.
Yeah. So we have a binary to answer. Mobility work, overrated or underrated?
It's funny. And this is why I love it, because we love getting to the nuance here. But with this series, we're asked to not. You're asked to yes or no.
Yeah.
You're asked because we like to say, well, it depends. Well, for who is it we out talking about? Who's it for? Whatever. And here we're just saying yes or no, good or bad, over, underrated.
Yeah.
I say overrated.
I'm going to say that most mobility work that you see out there is overrated.
No buts. No buts.
Oh,
no buts.
okay,
No
okay,
buts.
okay.
Because that's the whole point. That's the whole point, is that there's no buts. There's no nuance.
Okay.
You pick a topic.
It's overrated.
There we go.
It's
That's
overrated.
all you need.
Asterisks. It's
No asterisks. It's either over, underrated. But this is all for the sake of the joke. We know we know the reality of the situation, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah,
don't do the excessive stuff. That's all you
Yeah,
gotta
that
do.
was the purpose of the discussion anyway. All right, everybody. If you enjoyed today's video, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment below. We'd like to hear your thoughts. Do you think mobility work is overrated or underrated? And then we'll catch you in the next video.